Hey guys, Michael here at Varus Engineering, and today we're going to be installing our polyweave splitter and carbon air dam on our C8 Corvette. What we're looking at here is all the tools we're going to need to put our splitter and air dam on. On the right here, a cutoff disc of some sort and file is used to modify the soft close module bracket. That may not be necessary depending on the revision we are at, so we'll keep updated on that. At this time they are needed. Scissors to cut out your templates, a dead blow mallet to put together the two halves of the splitter, a pry tool. You can use a flat screwdriver as well to undo the electrical connections from that soft close bracket, a 7mm and a 10mm wrench, a bunch of extensions, and a couple ratchets and or impacts depending on what size sockets, what drive sockets you're going to be using, a 5mm Allen, a 4mm Allen, a 2.5mm Allen, a T30, a T15, and a 7mm socket. That should get us to where we're needing to go, and let's get started. Once you got your Corvette up in the air, we're going to remove this factory front lip. The 21 T15 screws all around the edge. We're going to make sure not to lose any of those because we got to reuse them to install our air dam later in the video. Once you have your factory lip removed, we're going to take this panel off right here. We're going to start with the 10, 5 on each side T15s, and then 6 7mm bolts. And then this can come out. Once you got all those screws and bolts removed, this should slide back straight out, just like that. Make sure to save all that hardware as well. It will be reused when it goes back together. Once you get this front trim panel and lip removed, you're going to look up in here, and where we're going to be drilling our holes to mount our brackets is this aluminum bar right across the top, and as you can see, this bracket's in the way. So some models will have this, some years will have this, some years will not. So I am going to focus. How we're going to have to modify this bracket. We're currently working on a revision for that, hence the reflective spray for our 3D scanner. But if you do not have this, the templates will work just as intended. The revision is coming to apply the modification to this bracket. So I'm going to get this bracket removed so I can lay down the templates and focus again and go from there. Removing this bracket. This model's a 2025, like I said earlier, so some cars will have it, some cars won't. I was just able to kind of move this AC line out of the way. Don't hang on it and bend it, but it's on some rubber mounts, and it'll move enough so you can get this bolt out. Just like so. And this should drop down, go up and over this AC line, and kind of dangle out of your way. Since we don't have the battery unhooked, I would recommend leaving these connectors connected. But with it hanging here, you're going to be able to get around, drill the holes for these rib nuts. So I'll bring you up in here, show you where to line up these templates, and then we'll get to drilling and installing those rib nuts. I'll show you that as well. Before we can start drilling holes and mounting these rib nuts, we've done our arts and crafts. We've cut out this template, and these, you're going to see the large circle and a small circle. That's what you line up on the crash beam. This one is that stud you're looking at. So I'm going to kind of cut this so where that stud can pass through it. Cut this paper here. I can slip that stud right through there. I'm going to do that as well on this other hole. I may cut out this hole fully. Just kind of depends on how confident you are lining that up. And then we will tape this up onto the bumper beam and center punch some holes and get to mounting some rib nuts. Alright, so I've got our templates taped up there. I'm about to center punch them, but I wanted to point out I took the stud here. I took the nut off of that just so that the templates can lay a little more flat. The brace that it does is a brace that goes to the bumper. It's not going to be able to be removed, so it's just kind of going to sit there. When you line up these templates, I want to make sure that the holes where you're going to drill are as parallel to this back side of that bumper beam as possible, to ensure that those mounting brackets that are going to mount there are straight. But apart from that, I'm going to center punch those holes. I'm going to start with a pilot hole of an 1/8 inch and then go out to a 3/8 inch to mount these rib nuts. You can go straight to 3/8. It's not necessary for a pilot hole. It's just kind of personal preference. So from there, we're gonna get to drilling. Wanted to take a quick moment here to explain our rib nut tool. This black collar will be in a little baggie in the hardware kit, as well as a long 4mm head cap screw. You thread the cap screw through the black collar into a rib nut. You put the rib nut up into whatever hole you're trying to do, and it takes either a 14mm or 9/16, either one works. And you put that up there, hold that black collar in place, and tighten down this 4mm Allen. You're going to start feeling it crush on the back side, and then you're going to notice an increase in pressure, and that's when you know it's tight. It's actually a 10mm hole, so 30 seconds will get you there. After I get all the rib nuts installed, we're going to loosely install the brackets. I'll show you all the bracketry before then, and we'll get going further on the install. And these are all the support items that will be in the kit. The short bar, long bar, the 3 kind of eye supports, and your 2 uprights, and these 2 brackets here. So this is how it will sit in the car. This will point towards the nose, this will point towards the rear. Each of these bars have rib nuts. Those will point down towards the ground. So got these 2 beams that go on the 2 outermost holes. This I-beam connects each bar center to center. The upright will actually, see these 4 holes here, will sit up on top, just like so. All of these connections that I've already done, we use the long 4mm head button head cap screw with the 12mm nut, or 12mm washer with a 10mm nut. The screws that go straight front to back through this upright rather, we'll also use that longer screw with the big washer. The bolts going through top to bottom of the upright will be the medium length with the small washer. It's because it will have to pass through the bottom of that. Same 10mm nut. When you install this upright though, this outermost hole on either side is going to get this bracket. The nut is going to go on top, and then this bracket. So this bracket has, let's see, a curve in it. That curve is going to point down towards the ground, towards the back of the car. And I'll reiterate that later, but just want to touch on that. So, go ahead and pre-install this section, tighten everything down, and then the uprights will go into the car first, and then we'll take the support assembly over after. So here we have the plastic panel that we removed from the nose of the Corvette earlier, and these are our cutout templates. Now we're going to need some sort of, I have a paint pen here, but you can use like a silver Sharpie would show up as well. This is the front side of the template. Technically, this is right hand, left hand. You line her up like so. You could, it's really going to be really hard to mark that out. So, what we need to do is flip this guy over. But we got to keep in mind that our right has become our left and our left has become our right. Line them up here and mark them out. You can tape these down if you would like, if that's going to help you. I am just going to freehand it. Boom. Just like that. One down, one to go. Once we get these, we're going to have to cut out what we just traced. Now, there's a couple options on how to cut that out. I am going to use an air saw. I have an air saw, so I'm going to drill a hole in the corner and give myself a starting point, and then use that air saw to cut it out. You can use a Dremel or any sort of cutting tool that you see fit, and cut out right here. Mark it. Cut. Cut. Now that I've got this bracket trimmed up, I wanted to take a chance to show you guys. So the center bracket here is for the soft close on this model, and so I've attached some pictures, but what I've done is when you take off this bracket and you look at the back side of it, that module doesn't go all the way to the edge of the bracket. So I traced the edge of the module, followed it all the way down the bracket, and basically trimmed it. So I lift this side off so you can see where it's trimmed. I've got this side on because this is the side with all the wiring. So to this sensor out here, this ran through. My bad. Ran through. I zip tied it there. I'll come to the back. The other one is just kind of zip tied to the side. Just keep them tucked up out of the way, and you can see the cut kind of in the middle there. So that is our fix for the moment. There is going to be a revision later on, but at this time, this is what you got to do to manage the bracket fitment and the wire locations. So I'm going to mount this other bracket in here, and we'll get going on mounting the support brackets. Here we've got the sheet metal air dam option for this front splitter kit. This one you're going to be looking at, this is a right hand, this is a left hand. This section is pre-bent. We will have to go in and make a small bend over here around the final edge of the bumper, but this is, I mean, it's pliable. You're going to be able to do it with your hands. I'll show you that later, but wanted to point out the bottom one has nuts already built into it. So you're going to use an M4 that comes in the kit with the washer. That's going to actually attach the splitter to this air dam. This top hole is for the factory hardware to go up into the bumper. So we'll reuse that factory hardware. And if I turn this around, this is going to be your center connection. So center connection gets the same M4 with the washer. You go through both pieces and have your M4 nut on the back with another washer. So, do that like so. Connect your two halves together, and especially when you do these two halves, you want to make sure that the halves are actually lined up with each other. Other than that, there's no pre-assembly of these that need to be done before install. So I'm going to take these over to the car and we're going to get them up and attached. Alright, don't mind my finger smudges. Gonna be cleaning that off once we're all done, but I'm going to show this is a fully installed side. Nice and flush with the bumper. This bend over here is going to be the one I'm going to show you how to do here in a second. I want to make sure to touch on the center. Make sure it is center. Make sure it's level on each side before you tighten her down. And that's what those two M4s look like, all tightened down. I ended up using a 7mm wrench on the lock nut, and then the head of the Allen is a 2.5mm. So there's that. And like I said, it uses the factory hardware all the way around. At this point also, you're going to have this trimmed bracket we did earlier. I have these brackets loose. It's just easier to get that trim piece in with them loose. You can still get up in there to get to the Allen with long length of extensions. So that's the way I went about it. I've got some of the screws in for that panel. You got to keep in mind later on, that bracket that points towards the ground is going to go to this hole here. So lift that one out, left that one out. So we've got that. I tighten each screw down as I go, making sure it's flush with the bumper. And so I'm to here. I have this one tightened. I have none of these in. I'm going to set the camera back on the tripod so I can show you how to make this bend super easy. I didn't even have to do any manual bending. Alright, we got our T15 back out. We got our factory hardware. And so I have it tight to here. I've gone around, tightened each screw as I went, following the curve of the bumper, making sure it's flush as I go. And so this next one, same thing. Just gonna push this air dam up to the bumper, start this screw, tighten it down. Next one, same thing. I'm looking here, making sure it's flush. Alright, now this last one, this is where the curve comes in. So truthfully, I kind of support it here, bend it towards the car. We'll work my hand around, making sure it's flush to the bumper. Maybe. There you go. Just like that. If you're flush all the way around, you don't have to take it on and off the car, keep bending, working it back and forth. Just follow as you go. And That's what she looks like all the way on. You're gonna get that support bracket that we pre-built on the bench earlier up in here next. I've got this support bracket up here that we built on the bench earlier. Everything is loose, and I wanted to show all this is supposed to be under tension just to help structurally, and so you may run into screw not wanting to go in. It's off by just a tiny amount because it wants to draw everything together once it's all tightened down. So what I've done is grabbed a screwdriver, put it up through the other hole, and just kind of worked with it, and just a tiny little movement, and should go right up in there. So it is supposed to be under tension. Oh, dropping stuff. So if you do run into that where it actually doesn't truly line up, that's a little trick that you can use. I'm going to throw this nut on, and now we're going to address this bracket. This bracket is the one I keep kind of harping on, but once you see it in there, it's super simple. It just follows the curve of the trim piece. So, put that down. Grab my other screw here. Put this screw up in there. Plug it in. There we go. Goes to this back hole that we haven't put a screw in yet. And there it goes. I'm gonna go ahead and start this screw. Set. Do the other side. Go through, tighten all these. I'd say 10 foot-pounds. 8 to 10 is gonna be perfect. Don't need much. Here we've got our two halves of the splitter. You're gonna see the teeth on either end, and that's what's called a zipper fit. So, to put that together, what you're gonna do is lay them interlocking with each other, and then use some persuasion. Just like that. And then, if you see in the center of the zipper here, there's two holes. That's going to get the same M4 you use for the center of the air dam, a washer on the back, and another one of those nylon lock nuts. So, put said bolt through like so. Put the washer on. And finally, our nylon nut. The bottom side is where our logo sits. That's facing towards me. So this is going to be the top side. It's going to go towards that brace. So you want the nut on that back side. One last thing before the splitter goes onto the car. On the bottom side where the logo is and all these cutouts, you're going to see there's a couple pairs of holes. There's 6 pairs of holes that don't go all the way through. So this is going to be the option for some skid vanes. If you choose to do this, these are threaded, and these holes need finish drilling out in order for our M6 hardware to pass through. So, what I'm going to do, grab a 1/4 inch, and we're just going to finish making these through holes, and then we'll slap on some of these vanes here. So, maybe. I've got those through. Let me grab couple washers. Throw this on. So, this is the nose. The big end of this skid vane is going to go towards the nose. The screws go in the back side. Now that you chose to install your skid vanes, those are all tight. Your splitter halves are tight. Go ahead and just checklist. Everything uprights all the way up are tight. Wires are taken care of and managed. These brackets on either side, everything's tight. Because once you get the splitter up in there, you're not going to be able to get to any of that. So now, it's time to throw this up. We're going to be using those big fender washers and a socket head cap screw. It's a 5mm Allen. I'm going to grab a couple of these, start them. Maybe. Alright, I'm going to start a couple of these, and then it'll be supported. It'll be easier to start the others. A couple in each corner. Just snugging these up. We're still going to need some movement in this splitter as we go in and do the connections to the air dam. So I'm just running them up so it's not hanging down so low. And then we'll put in all the bolts to the side, or the air dam. The air dam takes M4 screws, bolts, and some washers as well. So we got our M4 with a washer on it and a 2.5mm Allen. Kind of hard to see because that air dam's black powder coated, but those threads are already in there. Let's start all these. Like I said, that's why we needed some movement in there. That hole wasn't completely lined up, so I needed to adjust the splitter. But you want to make sure you don't mess up those threads. Just take a step back, make sure it's straight. And it sure is, so good to tighten down. Once you tightened everything down and you have your C8 back on the ground, you can take a step back, admire your new poly weave splitter, sheet metal and or carbon air dam, whatever you chose. If you have any questions further about the install or any other questions at all, contact us, sales@varus-engineering.com.